law student associates, who, by the way, as I understand it, all successfully graduated this week from the esteemed. I want to ask our students whether your perception of how lawyers should or do deal with other lawyers has changed from when you first started law school until now your day of graduation. Any thoughts on that? Yes.
First, I think that video sucked.
There's the attitude.
I'd make two comments to your question. One, my perception of what the legal profession was has changed for the better. Before beginning law school, I thought it was far more contentious, but having worked with who I think under a very wise attorney, showed me the benefit of being far more cordial, far more what I would now call professional and civil in trying to get things done on behalf of your client, and it expedites the process altogether. That being said, the second comment I would make to that is, while I haven't been in real practice, I've been in trial competitions from San Francisco to New York, and the consensus is among the trial department, who's now ranked top 5 in the nation, thank you, is that over the past few years, the professionalism of student competitors has declined. If we didn't win the championship or were in the finals, the biggest award that we sought to get was the most professional team award. Being civil, being kind, and courteous to the opposing counsel, demonstrating that we worked well together. However, I'll pick on New York, for instance, where the one competition we did not do so successfully is because what we call the style out there was far more aggressive, far more, shall we say, less professional than what we expected. And oddly, we were shocked when the judges complimented the aggressiveness of other teams, what we thought were low blows. And speaking with coaches and other people who have judged trial competitions over the years, they've noticed that over the years, these student competitors have become increasingly more aggressive and competitive in a bad way, and it's begun to creep into the California competitions as well. So in a way, it's conflicting because I see, at least in pre-trial litigation, how being cordial and professional can get things done. But once you get closer to the trial and in the courtroom, it seems like unless you're cutthroat, you don't get any results.
Any other students have any comments along that line? Yes.
Stephanie Berman, student associate. The thing that actually worries me is that I think that lawyers are very nice to student members or to students. When you're in, like, I work at, or intern at the DA's office as an intern. People have been very, very helpful to me. And I've talked to people who graduated last year or the year before, who were in the same position as me. And the big warning that they always give me is, as soon as you take the bar or you pass the bar, it switches. Because they want to mentor the law student, but once you become a lawyer, as a new lawyer, they're just going to look for ways, they're going to treat you like every other lawyer, or they're going to treat you, they're going to take advantage of the lack of experience that you have. And so any professors have made comments about it too, that as law students, you're never going to really encounter the negativity from other lawyers, but when you first become a lawyer, that's what you have to watch out for. So I mean, I don't have that experience, obviously I just graduated on Saturday, but that's actually the warning that's been given to me.
Yes.
Cody Dribble. I think that I want to echo something that was said at the last comment session. I think it depends on your practice. I've had really two main legal jobs, one as a public defender and one doing plaintiff's work in Southern California, and there are really two dimensions to it for me. I think that Northern California lawyers are a little bit more laid back because it's probably a smaller legal community and we see each other a lot more up here. The plaintiff's firm down in Southern California had cases in Kern County, Ventura County, Los Angeles, San Diego, basically every county in Southern California. And when you are in a civil practice and you're practicing in every county in Southern California, you hardly ever see the same two faces more than once or twice. So it's a lot more tempting to be uncivil, but either because we're in Northern California or because it was a criminal practice where we saw the same DAs every day and saw the same magistrate judge every day, everyone was a lot more civil because you have to deal with the same people.
Does that take it sort of back to the anonymity principle of incivility? If you don't have to worry about what your peers are thinking about you, you tend to be a lot more aggressive with the way you handle things. So let me,
There was a hand up over,
yes.
I was just gonna say, in response to the previous student's comments, I'm a pretty new attorney, new enough that everybody thinks I'm still in law school. And I did notice a little bit of a difference once I passed the bar and started working full-time. Some of the attorneys weren't quite the way they were when I was, in law school. I think that some of it, though, has to do with the fact that you're there and you're practicing law that much more often, so you're exposed more, so you're gonna come across more negatives when you're there more than when you're not there as much. But it's not as bad as you might think, really.
Well, let me ask our judge, yes, one more?
I was just gonna add to what you just said, Susan Mario. I've had a lot of positive experiences with attorneys. I'm about 6 years out now since I graduated. And I've had much more experienced attorneys that kind of helped and they were on the other side, but they were more than willing to show me the way. So that's a good thing.
Let me ask our judges if we're, in a sense, kind of wasting our time talking about civility in today's world. Is this an issue that's sort of passé?
Being
Judge Brown.
brand new, although mentored by some of the greats.
And
Well, I
also,
can
and also
answer
by
that.
Judge Avini.
Precisely. Obviously, I'm just doing, it's all criminal. That was kind of my background anyway, but criminal trials. I've been so impressed by the civility and the professionalism of the attorneys. I've had now a number of trials and a lot of very junior lawyers in the public affairs office, the DA's office, and now some more experienced attorneys on some felonies. And really, I can't think of anyone who didn't conduct themselves in the most cordial, civil way, and they treat each other great. You'll hear them out in the courtroom readily agreeing to certain things. Yeah, I'll step to that. Yeah, you could go ahead. And so by the time they're coming back in chambers, it's really quite a pleasant experience. I find it, very, encouraging, refreshing. It reminds me, and I think ultimately it does fall to the judge to sort of set that tone in the courtroom. And if I certainly am on guard, if I find counsel is not going to go along with sort of this esprit de corps, I'm going to ride that attorney for a while until they sort of get that that's just not acceptable conduct. But I think they've been terrific. Golly.
If I might comment. Golly.
I know.
One of the things I've noticed is that the root exploiters in my courtroom are very often the youngest lawyers. That the ones who have more experience really know that's not the way to go, and eventually it's going to back up on them.
Well, they
And-
object more. It's cute, but they're playing with the evidence code. It's come on.
Some of them actually have to be familiarized with the evidence.
Well, yeah.
But that's more of the more experienced lawyers seem to have a better sense of it, I think, sometimes. Not always, but more often than not, it's the younger ones who want to come in and, and get tough and make their bones in front of you, and it actually doesn't work well with a jury, in my view.
Nancy?
Nancy Ramirez. I'm with the DA's office and I'm currently in an assignment overseeing our misdemeanor trial team. So it's the brand new DAs who are out of school and just learning. And it's interesting because there's a lot of infighting and nasty behavior in the brand new attorneys because I do think they have the mindset coming in that that's what attorneys do. What I see is not only with the lead attorneys and the supervisors on the DA side, but also on the public defender side, is that we each kind of mentor both the young DAs and the young public defenders. So our young DAs will sometimes get feedback from the other side, the public defender supervisor, saying a compliment or, some constructive feedback, and we as the DAs do the same on both our DAs and young public defenders. So I do think the role of mentoring is very important.
Judge Richardson?
Yeah, Paul Richardson. I saw a quote from Benjamin Cardozo, the great justice, who said, with regard to your question regarding the role of the judge, and he said the role of the judge in terms of justice is not so much the dialectics of the law, but the only is a good mentoring vehicle with regard to lawyers in that courtroom, but also for the civility we're trying to engender here, but also the effect it will have on clients.
Good. Judge, do you have a comment?
I just,
I didn't forget about you.
no, I saw a stark difference between, and generally I have to agree that most attorneys at hearing, and I disagree with this idea that civil attorneys are uncivil. As far as when they're in court, of course, civil and probate, of course, probate, you know, you determine how much they get paid, and so they're very live. But in, the only exception, I've got to say, is court call. And probably, maybe it was only an isolated case, but I knew 2 attorneys where I almost, after 2 hearings on court call, and a court reporter that wanted to quit, it was absurd. And they almost got banned from the 3rd hearing for court call. They appeared personally, and they were very polite, cordial. We didn't have any of the problems that we had in the previous 2 hearings. And so, just as a reminder, court call, you know, we still know who you are. We know what your name is. When you're the only civil judge in town, you do have to come back on occasion. So, it is something to keep in mind because it's, you know, you might not see your face. There is always going to be a settlement conference that you'll be at. So
I think these comments from judges are really useful and interesting to those of us who practice, because you see the attorneys far more frequently than we do in a courtroom setting. I may see, you know, five a year in a courtroom setting, lots of depositions, but, so it's really interesting. Kevin? Judge Culhane?
Well, 2 things. In the last segment of the skit, we saw the young associate being told how to object and how to run it up, and basically cloud up the discovery responses as long as one could, et cetera. And then there was a part of the segment that sort of asked, well, what would it be like if standards of civility were applied across the board, and it made it look almost impossibly sugary, and this, I think in a way I sort of felt like it's a false dichotomy, really, because you know, I consider myself to be pretty lucky to practice with the same people for 32 years. It doesn't happen unless we kind of have a shared idea of how this is supposed to work. But one of the things that, you know, I guess came across as I put those 2 things together is that, you know, I think that whether you're a student that's just starting and you're kind of, everybody's being nice to you, beginning lawyer, one with little experience, very long in the tooth, the fact of the matter is, you get to decide who you want to be. You get to decide what you want to give off and what standards you're going to apply. You're not responsible for anybody else. Sort of like when you're raising kids, those of you that happen to know what I'm talking about, they say, well, but the other kid did this, the other kid did that. My wife is forever saying, you're not responsible for the other kid. You're only responsible for you. And really, each of us is in control of, you know, not so much what civility comes back, but what civility goes out. And that's the only thing you can do, is just decide who you're going to be. No matter how senior or junior or beginning you are, you get to decide who you're going to be. That's a great thing about this job. And so, in a way, you know, we're really, when you do the program, the genius of the program is we're really just talking to ourselves, right? And sort of asking, you know, I'm only responsible for me. What kind of environment am I creating? What am I accomplishing on this? And I think you can be an aggressive lawyer. You can say, I'm going to know that law backwards, forwards, inside and out. I'm going to marshal the facts the very best way I can. And if you need a continuance, you're going to get it. And you're not going to hear from me, well, my client won't do it, because you'd be perfectly within your rights to say it's not your client's fault, it's yours. And so we're really just talking to ourselves, and we can control who we're going to be.
Rick Lukowitz. I think we need to be careful about what we call incivility. I know Judge Brown didn't mean anything by it, but the comment about attorneys stipulating. I see sometimes young prosecutors get upset because a defense attorney won't stipulate to a particular piece of evidence that may be different, may be pretty easy to prove. And that becomes the source of anger and frustration, when in fact that's their tactical strategy. It may not make a lot of sense to the prosecutor, but we don't know what's going through their mind. We don't know all the facts they know. I think we just need to be careful in how we interpret what is incivility versus just ethical, zealous advocacy.
Judge Mize?
Couple things. One of the reasons incivility is so prevalent is that it works in the short run. And I think if we don't recognize that, then we lose some of the attraction that this intoxicant has. The reason why people get along better in criminal law is that it's a long run. You see these people over and over again, and you see the same judge over and over again, so you get to be able to start correcting those things. I'd like to take you from the dream of Larry's world now to family law for a little bit.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Thank you.
On the other end. And
Sorry, go ahead.
And I was just thinking, sometimes on some days, 20% of my time is spent in just correcting the behavior of not just the pro pers, but of the attorneys, and interrupting and arguing and yelling and just doing things that are inappropriate for that you would never see in a criminal court, which is one of the reasons why it was more enjoyable in some ways there. But on the other hand, because it's rewarding, what I tried to do is use things such as, counsel, when you interrupted then, it made me believe that the other side was really making a good point. I say things that, you are, by speaking so aggressively, you are making the case against yourself on this domestic violence thing. So in other words, I'm trying to help them to see how their behavior is actually not being rewarded. But that is something that judges really have to do with energy, particularly in family courts and in some of the other courts when you're not dealing with good lawyers.
Sometimes when two lawyers come in and they've reached a boiling point, you really have an obligation to figure out who's right. Because it's so easy to say, just both of them shut up,
Yes.
talk to me, I don't want to hear it. And one of them may have started it and maybe taken advantage of it and getting rewarded for it. And the other one is simply trying to respond and defend their client. And if you just shut them up without making any inquiries, you've really hurt the one who started out on the right side of it.
Right.
You go.
Justice Warren, you're right, but I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 judges will say, wait a minute. And, we're lucky enough to practice law for a long time. It's very seldom that you get into the act of these kinds of deals, very, very seldom. We know we have cases with lawyers all over. But it's funny, you'll see judges most of the time say, stop. Well, no need to hear it, because he shredded the stuff, and he didn't give it to me, and didn't follow your order, didn't tell you what witnesses he was going to call or she was going to call. But the thing that I think people overlook, and we mentioned a couple of sessions ago, I think it was last year, my memory's gone, but it's never in your best interest in the long term to act unprofessionally toward others. It never is. I had a case years ago with a lawyer representing PG&E, Steve Jones, who said he's a class act lawyer, wonderful lawyer, said lawyer. And get real cranky during depositions, we had this impacted schedule. And I said to him, what's your problem? We kind of got into it. He goes, well, you know what? You have a kid who's a junior in high school and pitching the playoffs and don't make his game. And I looked and said, what kind of a father are you? Why didn't you tell me? I said, just let me know when we'll do that. So I said, that's ridiculous. Go. Well, we literally stopped the depot that morning so he could take off to go do it. Well, it was a very long case, but I wasn't trying to be nice to him. It's just, are you kidding me? I'm not going to miss my kids, whatever tennis. So the bottom line is, it always comes back in spades to be a pro. The tough thing is when you have a dastardly character, you're not going to want to treat him or her sweetly. You're going to want to get up earlier and say, okay, if this is the game you're going to play, you are. It's part of the human nature.
You know what? I got a bunch of great questions here I didn't even get a chance to ask. So I appreciate everybody's talking, but we're getting close to the end of the hour. So before we leave tonight's discussion, I want to ask our esteemed team leader, Judge Morrow, if he has any final comments to make to the group tonight.
Do I have anything to add? Yo, Davidian, kick it one time, boy. Yo, Louis, let's kick it.
Cheers to superhoop fumes. You're filling our brains like a poisonous mushroom. Rude. When you act so crudely, anything less than respect is a felony. Love it. Believe it's here to stay. Everywhere you look, there's a behavior display. Check out the world that the whisper resolves in.
Nice, baby. You lie. You lie. Nice, nice, baby. You lie. Why? Nice, nice, baby. You lie. You lie.
Now that the game is in session, with the judges have turned and the lawyers are willing, get to the point of no breaking. Fairness and respect is our undertaking. Earning it, make respect the symbol. No more questions, respect the symbol. No smack, good faith, great tender. Use fairness to end it all swindle. Rolling with no ego, pledge respect, go simple call. Think to replot, anger on standby. Put up epic, you got a put on. Breaking the flow up. Use the term to end the demo to be true.
Yo, just continue to give respect.
Don't be one two. Are you one two? Nice, nice, baby. Are you one two? Nice, nice, baby. Are you one two? Nice, nice, baby. Are you one two?
Word to your mother. All right.
What does that mean?
Who knows?
Louis knows?
That's the guy to ask. Let me introduce this amazing team. Ben Davidian. Brad Thomas. Matthew Kennedy. Jennifer Gibson. And Wright. James C. Moak. Molly Steamer. Julian Brown. Lauren Lane. Dave Turner Bond. And I give some special thanks to all our cameo appearances and the people who helped us so much. Connie Callahan. Morrison England. Larry Brown. John Heller. Our fantastic technical assistant, Elliot Grogan. Scott Moak was our narrator, voice of the Sacramento Kings. Tasia Montero was our dance instructor.
Stand up.
Stand up, Tasia.
There she is.
And Rusty Pravat was our amazing video production.
All right, Rusty.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good job, you guys. Wow. Thank